All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have to the Prospect Podcast. We have a fantastic guest here today. Coach Shubin will be joining us momentarily. We have Coach Alex Collier from Kentucky Christian University, recruiting coordinator, pass game coordinator, defensive backs coach. Looking forward to speaking with him to talk some Kentucky Christian football and overall philosophy and whatnot. Coach, welcome to the show. Thanks for being a part of it, and we appreciate you taking the time, buddy.
Man, thanks, Coach. I appreciate you for having me. I'm very humble, and let's have some fun, man. Let's talk some football. Let's do it.
Coach, let our viewers know, kind of give us a little dive into your bio, your past, how you got where you're at right now.
Most definitely. So for me, I'm born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. Went to school for me, after I graduated, my goal was to, walk on at Troy University. And so, honestly, things didn't work out how they were supposed to. So, for me, I kind of feel like coaching kind of found me, you know what I mean? In a sense, I was going to school to always knew ball, was playing ball, was kind of working, had my daughter very early in college. So that kind of steered some plans. And, I can remember I was working at Lowe's, and, there was a coach named Coach Todd Watts, and he kind of walked in outside, and I didn't know he was a coach at the time, but I always was kind of figuring out a way how to try to, work with the program and get around the program. And I'd never forget, he came out there just for a surge protector. It was a busy day, and I said to him, I said, "Hey, coach, I don't want any money. I don't want anything. I just want to be a part of the program." And that was back in 2015, around the same time, and could be kind of funny. And so, he, for the first 2 months, they just kind of had me coming down, not doing any work, to see if I was serious about it. And, that's kind of where I kind of got my start at, was kind of working with the player personnel director. Then I kind of found myself working around the video with the video coordinator, assistant video coordinator. So I'm off at the back end, seeing how film cut up, kind of parlayed that into a student assistant role with the cornerbacks coach. And, I just each year kind of just grew my role. And, from that moment on, obviously graduated, went back to my alma mater, coach with the defensive backs and the JV team. That's kind of where you get your first start, where your feet wet is with the JV squad, and assisting the DC with the DBs. And then, for me, I was able to get an opportunity in 2019 at Carroll University up there in Wisconsin. Kind of got my GA spot there. And then from then, I was able to get a first full-time role, at a school called Philander University in Michigan. And so, still a young guy, things was kind of moving kind of quick, and, you kind of bouncing around. And from Philander, kind of went down to, Georgia, got a D1 opportunity to be as a quality control guy. Coach Taylor, who's not the head coach at Mercer, not Mercer, excuse me, he was the DC at Mercer when I was there as a quality control. And so, left there, bounced a couple places, Bemidji State, East Central University, Bemidji's in Minnesota, East Central's out there in Oklahoma, and then just was able to bounce there a couple places, and then found myself out the game for a year, So, but then I was able to, go back to high school coaching, some high schools back home, Then I was able to find myself back at Edward Waters University, which is a Division II school back home in Jacksonville. And so was able to just kind of go there, was defensive backs coach, special teams coordinator there as well. And then, found myself leaving there, and now we're at Kentucky Christian University, and, we're here. We're loving it. We're trying to grow it. And so, that's my growth path. Kind of like any other coach, you kind of got to go through the trials and tribulations, and, just going through it with kind of my beaten path right there, coach.
Yeah, coach. I mean, look, I think we have a bunch of, a lot of guys on here, right? And the path is familiar, especially for younger guys looking to get into it, right? So talk a little bit about Kentucky Christian. For people that don't know, what level of ball is it? What conference you play, kind of that type of thing. That way, people kind of reference where you're at now. You there, coach?
I'm sorry, Coach. It was buffering on us. That's technology for us, baby.
Oh
So I
no! Oh no!
apologize
You're
about
good. You're
that,
good. You're
Coach.
good. No, not no. Don't worry about it. Just tell us a little bit about Kentucky Christian University. Kind of tell us, what level it is. Maybe some of the teams you play. Just so that our viewers get kind of familiar at what type of school you're at.
Yeah, for sure. So we kind of like to joke. It's kind of like it's think of TCU, BYU. It's a Christian school. You know what I mean. So our motto is we do have Christian in our middle name. So obviously, we do have chapel once a week for the guys, and so we are big. Asking to be a Bible thumper. We're not asking God to come here and be a preacher. We want guys to be themselves, but we also expect guys to understand we were, Jason Barber, he's phenomenal. Think about him, we're a little different. We have our core values, and our values is we want to build men of integrity, and then we want to have guys who graduate and have a life plan. And so then that's when we get into kind of our, details about what we want to do. We want to be conference champions. We want to go, our AAC, we kind of have a victory bowl game, and then we want to go off and our philosophy. So we recruit everywhere. We're like I said, we're not looking from a set school to go to a pre-athlete school. We want guys from every walk of life. We're gonna bring, but we want. With that being said, we want to bring in the right guys. We want to bring in the right guys who have the right character, come from good programs with good high school coaches who have taught them, necessary things. Because every experience with the got recruited coach that high school or other college level. So that's who we are. That's what we're about at Kentucky Christian. So, coach.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, coach, and especially now in today's day and age with social media and whatnot. I feel like every school is almost a national school, whether they have the budget to do it or whether they don't. A lot of guys can recruit nationally, and with the access to coaches through social media, whether it be DMs or whatnot, it doesn't have to be the classic role of kind of boots on the ground in the building, walking through there. I mean, I've seen less foot traffic from college coaches in that retrospect when it comes to recruiting than I ever have before. Right? I mean, it's just kind of lessening where it's mega camps and it's campus visits and whatnot, and kids are making and parents are making to actually get on campus, before it even gets to where it used to be on that level of that process, right? I think that's something that's changed within recruiting itself, is that a lot of guys can now look at guys from all over, which adds a whole different level of recruiting in terms of just kind of where you're looking and what you're doing. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of guys that still do it graphically and whatnot, just based off, is the juice worth the squeeze for a school like, for yourselves, example, to go recruit California. But it really kind of works on the other end. For the most part, it's not so much you going and recruiting those kids coming to you or sending you a DM about, hey, coach, like, what is this all about? Or, that type of thing. I think that's part of the part of recruiting that it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because it adds a lot more work for you, especially with, probably not as many staffers as some of the bigger programs have, like I said, you just look at your bio, how many hats you wear at the school itself, right? Hopefully you're not having to do laundry and do that aspect of it too, but ain't nothing wrong with that either. I think that's a little bit of a bonus to your progression as a coach, is you've done some of the things, right? So talk about that a little bit, as being the younger guy, right? Can you talk about that a little bit, as, starting out doing video, starting out, just being, a guy that's in the defensive room without really a room of your own. Talk about that a little bit for our coaches that watch. How is that in terms of what do they, just talk about it a little bit, how that's helped in your growth.
Yeah, for sure, Coach. I think, you spoke on how, there's not a lot of boots on the ground anymore due to the fact because of social media. I think a thing that we done here that we tried to do a little different. We still try to keep those connections with a lot of the Kentucky pocket. 30 minutes away from West Virginia. We're literally 20 minutes away from Ohio. So what we've done as a staff is we've constantly tried to, continue to keep a good local high school coaches. You know what I mean? So we will go to Huntington, West Virginia, and talk to some of the high school coaches that's there, and go face to face with them. We still feel like that's a big thing. I've been to some schools, and I've seen maybe a bigger D1 walking on. I may not get that cat, but that's all right though, because I know, hey, if I know that walking in the program, this will be a good program where the coaches are coaching well and the coaches are doing what they need to do at that program. So, hey, he may not be a D1 guy, but we know we're going to get a cat who's going to work hard, who's going to have great work ethic, who's going to be a good academic guy for us. And that's something that we can build off of. And, coaches love sending guys to us when they meet face to face. So you also spoke on the social media piece. For me being a younger guy, I still feel like I can connect with guys who are high school. I'm not necessarily. So the connection piece is definitely. I'm always trying to connect on a deeper level. Like, man, what games are you playing? Are you on COD? Are you on are you on Madden? Are you on 2K? So I'm all for us. That's our biggest approach. As being the recruit coordinator here, I'm constantly saying, like, learn guys in a way that's deeper than ball. Learn guys that's, who's the decision maker, who's the person in the house, that's making the decisions. Is it the mom? Is it the dad? And that's a big thing for us that you spoke about is, parents are making a bigger effort to come on campus. For us, we had about 89 guys sign up for our game day visit this week. Maybe not everybody's going to make it. We're in Kentucky, so you may have a guy that's excited about what we're putting out on social media. He's all the way in Delaware, and he may not even. So you can't count him, but it's just the fact that we try to use social media for as a plus for us. So it's all marketing. You know what I mean? So the more you put your brand out there, the more you get guys to see who you are. Now you can expand from that local horizon, and now you're getting guys from your other top states like that you want, your Florida, your Georgias, your Texas, your Bamas. What we try to do is we broke it to a 6-hour radius. If guys can get, because that's typically your college drive, 4 to 6 hours, you're typically your college drive. And for us being in Kentucky, 6 hours gets us as far as Tennessee, gets us as far as South Carolina. You know what I mean? You can probably get to North Carolina, and but with me being we got 3 coaches on staff who were either born in Florida or grew up in Florida. So we have a huge standpoint in Florida as well. One of our coaches, he's from Tampa. I'm from Jacksonville. Then we got another coach who was raised in Hollywood, Florida, as well as Alabama connections. I went to school at Troy. We Coach Long, he's the receivers coach. He was raised in Alabama. Coach Jay Wright is our younger coach, GA. He was raised in Birmingham. So we got guys, and for us, the local connection, our defense coordinator, he was born in Louisville, Kentucky. He's coached in Kentucky most of his career. So we have that strong connection right there. So, as we continue to build our brand, build our culture, and show people what we, I think people will love, what we'll have.
Coach Shu, how you doing, buddy? You good? Oh, we can't hear you, Coach Shu.
There's a lot of trees
Oh,
down
there
where
you
I
go.
am.
There you go. All
A
right.
lot
All
of
right. Yeah.
lot of trees. I drove to a corporate park.
There
That's
you
only
go.
like
Well, they got Wi-Fi.
Yep. That's what I figured. I said let me see if I just go where I went first. I was like no, there was like no bars. So went to a corporate park. But yeah, a lot of things have no power. A lot of places
Right.
have no power. So
All right.
I don't
Well,
know.
hey, that's what happens when you live where we live. That's for sure. Hurricane season happens up here too, Coach. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's wild. Uh,
For sure.
it's wild, man. It's wild. Um, but yeah, it's not even raining. That's the crazy part. It's not even raining. It's just windy. It's really not even raining. Um, well, Coach, I was going to ask you. So when you started developing your recruiting plan and how you attack the type of athletes that you guys wanted to get, and you mentioned how you talked about how social media is a big part of how you reach out to athletes, and I see Kentucky Christian a lot on social media. What is like from a strategy standpoint, like what kind of players are you guys trying to target? Like are you trying to target players that um are more high school guys, more transfer guys, a mix of both? What are you doing that from that standpoint? Lose you guys?
I got you. Can you
I'm
hear
sorry.
me?
Oh, is Coach there?
Yeah, I'm here. It's just kind of coming in late. I heard the first part.
Oh,
Like you
well,
said, you say you see Kentucky Christian a lot, and I think I can kind of catch what you said. So
oh,
when
I said,
we're targeting players,
yeah, yep, yeah, that's it. Good.
What the heck?
I see Derek.
You can hear me, right, Coach Show?
I hear you good. Yeah, I
Oh
think
yeah,
it's
yeah. No, look, I could kind of because sometimes it's been buffering a little bit with him going in and out, but that's all right. I, he spoke before that with the like using social media. They now have more access to national players, and more guys have really been getting on campus based off of what they've been doing using social media, right? So, which obviously we see that as a huge part. Coach, go ahead and
absolutely.
expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, your target, like what kind of players are you targeting, and it's more high school or transfers, that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. So it's a little bit of both. You know what I mean? Like, we want to we want to keep that main thing of continue to develop guys. You know what I mean? I think I know they just stopped. The spring transfer portal, so that's going to help teams out a little bit more. Initially, you was having to kind of have two recruiting seasons. You was going to have one for the fall, and then you was going to have to obviously, flip the script again because guys was going to leave. So obviously you have to plug and replace guys who does decide to leave, and you're still going to have guys decide to leave after fall. That's just the day and age you live in. So it just solely depends on the year. You know what I mean? Right now we're going into a year where we have a lot of freshmen on the team. We're freshman heavy, so we did a great job of recruiting high school. So I think our main focus as we move forward, we want to get some mid-year transfers and to replace some of that much needed areas, if I can say. So we want to get some more. Let's say I got a senior defensive back right now. He's going to be graduating in the spring, so I would love to replace my guy Jalen Price. He's a great young man. He's one of our team captains, but he's coming into his last year, so it just solely depends on the year. So right now we're like a percentage base. We're like since we do have a lot of freshmen, let's give it like 70-30, who want to try to get 70% transfers and 30% freshmen out. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to get that. It just that's the goal. And we have a lot of great freshmen who's coming into our program, who's fitting our standards. But with the transfers, it's even more harder because these guys have our philosophy into them. So it's even harder for us because you want to pick the right guy. You want to hit up other coaches who they've been a part of and ask them, hey, what made them leave? Coach, he probably was third on the depth. He probably wasn't going to play here, and he probably has a better opportunity with playing for you. And you get a lot of bounce backs like that. And so that's kind of where it's at, Coach. And like what Coach spoke about earlier before you got on, social media being so heavy, and we are able to connect with the good JUCOs out there, you know what I mean? And each coach has a connection to a coach, who's at certain JUCOs, and we're able to get some type of guidance on them. Like right now, we have a couple guys who we got from Georgia Military to throw a school out there. We got a corner and the linebacker from Hocking College, you know what I mean? So those are some places that we have tapped our palms into. We're just going to continue to try to build that pipeline. So if that answers your questions, coaches.
Yeah. No, it definitely does. As far as, so you said 70% transfers. What is it like acclimating like players that are transfers into the program? Like, what do you guys do to try and take a bunch of different guys each year and acclimate them into your program, so they align with the values that you guys have?
Good question.
Yeah, I think acclimation is huge, and that's something that Coach Arbor speaks on about all the time. Like, make sure we're doing our homework, make sure we're doing our research on particular players. Which is why for us, that's kind of where we're steadily putting our core values. So what Coach Arbor did, he did something that I think is huge. He basically recorded one of the campus visits. It sent him the YouTube video of Coach Arbor speaking. Like, this is what our expectations are as a program. And typically a lot of times guys kind of wean themselves out. If they don't like the video or feel like they can fit in, they just simply won't respond. You know what I mean? That kind of saves us time right there, because this is our expectations. You're going to get that within the first couple minutes, and that's something that I always reiterate as a recruit coordinator is we want to get the guys who's going to buy into what we're trying to buy into. Because again, we all know, like, you bring so many transfers in, it's kind of hard. I think on our level, you know what I mean, what makes it a lot more organic is we can't pay for the guys at the Power 5 level. We don't have per se NIL money, you know what I mean? So guys aren't necessarily coming for for the bread. Like, granted, we do offer scholarships at the NAI level, but you're not getting a $200,000 NIL deal to come play for us. So I think it creates a lot more or organic. Not to say it's not organic at that level. The coaches aren't doing their due diligence, but I think when it comes to at our level, guys have to want to come play for you, because they want to be there. They like being there. So, but you still have to do your homework, because you can still get no matter what level you're on, whether it's high school, D3 to DS level. So it's just doing your due diligence with every guy you come across and making sure. And sometimes you may have to wean a guy off. Like, hey man, I appreciate the conversation. I think we're going to go a different direction. And sometimes those conversations are hard to have as well. But it's just doing your due diligence, so when they do get here, and sometimes you have to kind of break the buck a little bit. I know when me and the DC first got here, the defense, the guys, they was in for a rude awakening. So we did a lot of running after practice, because we was trying to hold the guys accountable and make them fit into the philosophy that we had as a defensive staff. So absolutely great question, Coach.
Can't hear you, Dave.
Oh, where do you get the majority of your transfers from? Are they drop down guys? Are they lateral moves? Are they upgrades to you guys? Where do you see a lot of your guys?
For sure, that's a great question. For us, and I think for us, we've got guys from who were bounce backs. Like, first off the top of my head that comes to mind when you ask that question, got my starting nickel right now. He came from, it was a walk on Temple. Things didn't go the way he would like them to have go at Temple. So we were able to get him as a late transfer guy. You know what I mean? So, and our thought process with that is you're able to get guys who maybe, let's say in day out, he's going to obviously have an edge against other caliber guys. Not saying guys at this level don't have great talent. You know what I mean? That's not what I'm saying. But the thought process is, like I said, you try to get guys who's been at certain levels, and you bring them down to our level, you feel like they can compete a lot better. Obviously with the same thing as with JUCOs, you pick the right JUCOs. You know what I mean? Let's say a guy's a two deep at a good JUCO. You know what I mean? And he probably doesn't have the FBS offers, and he has the D2s. Well, I'm a little delusional. I feel like I can compete with the D2s when it comes to recruiting, because I'm a doggone good recruiter, if I can say so myself. So, but at the end of the day, they're going to make their decisions. But that's what we're trying to do for us, conference level wise. It doesn't matter, conference level wise. Now for us, we can't. It's just like you can't transfer in conference, because you have to sit out. So when I mean conference, I basically the level of NAI. So if a cat's at one NAI and he's in the portal, you know what I mean? We're going to talk to him if he fits what we want with the measurables, what he has with the athleticism and the mindset. We're going to talk to him. And obviously, we kind of do our due diligence. I'm kind of the first face of talking to most guys, and I kind of shoot them off to the position coaches, and then position coaches kind of talk to him from there. And then at the end of the day, our head coach, speaks with them. I think Coach Arby does a fantastic job. Anybody who we're liking, we're talking to, who want to offer, want to give money to, Coach Arby makes sure he talks to him and see if he's the right cat. Because hey, the buck starts with him. You know what I mean?
Right.
I can like a guy. A position coaching lab, if the head man doesn't like him.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and yeah, we see that a lot too, right? Like obviously, there's a process to the recruiting in terms of who talks to somebody first, and then it goes to usually position coach, but it's almost like a strainer, right? Like that guy's got to go through a lot of he's got to check a lot of boxes, and ultimately the buck stops with the head coach because his name's on it at the end of the day. Whether it's a transfer guy, a JUCO guy, coach, in terms of JUCO guys, right? Because that's a very different world in itself, right? What is the biggest difference you see when it comes to guys coming from the JUCO world or just straight up transfers coming from a drop down in another, maybe a different school, whether it's a lateral move or a drop down or a guy coming up, right? Like, what is the biggest difference you see in JUCO guys when they get to your spot?
Yeah. That's a question. And this does not go for it's discipline. You know what I mean? Whether that's necessarily, I think when you're breaking it up, your guys who probably transfer from a bigger D2 or D1 compared to a guy who maybe was at a lower level JUCO, it all stems from how do you discipline yourself, and that could be discipline in the classroom, that could be discipline how you eat, it could be discipline in the weight room. Everything is just discipline, because let's say you get a guy who maybe come from a national championship, junior college team. His discipline is going to be a lot different than a guy who probably came from a team who went 300 on a year. You know what I mean? So a lot of it is discipline. I can and discipline is entailing of getting, on and off the classrooms, the athleticism, the bit longer than this particular guy, say a D1 bounce back or a junior college guy. But at the end of the day, we still have to make them fit what we want them to become in our program. They have to follow our philosophy, which is why it goes back to school. Kind of what I was saying earlier was, hey, these is our core values. We want, number one, men of integrity. You know what I mean? So if we anywhere in the process, it doesn't matter whether you're at a JUCO or high level school you're bouncing back from. If there's any way in the conversation we figure out, hey, you was integrity, we kind of cut that off, you know what I mean? Because we want the right guys here. Because if you're not holding yourself to a higher standard, then for yourself personally, it's going to be very hard for another guy, another man or coach to hold you accountable as well, because you're going to always kind of fight that. So those are just some of the small things that, for me, that I've seen that's a bit different. It creates a bit difference, even though it's small, it's major at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
No doubt about it. When it comes to like positions that you guys feel like sometimes you have to really work harder to get than other positions, are there positions at your level that you feel like you really got to search more wide and far to find the guys that would fit your program?
Absolutely. I would say interior guys. Those are the most those are some of the hardest gets you can really get, you know what I mean? Because everybody's looking for interior. Your trenches kind of make your program. You're gonna always find a running back, you're gonna always find a DB, those, not saying that they're gonna necessarily be the best, but you're gonna kind of always be able to find them. And like I said, speaking of, we have 3 coaches from Florida. It's not hard for us to find a guy back home or a guy down south to, go around a 4.6 or 4.7, and he can come out here he can cover somebody. Now, what's hard is 290 guys who can go plug up the A gap or have quick feet who can play the 3-tech, or finding a good guard who can pull. And a lot of those guys, they get took up. And for us being in Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky not too far. You got Western Kentucky, FBS right there. You got Union College right there. You got so many other schools. You got Murray State right there. So I know you spoke about the local recruit earlier, and so it sometimes forces you to have to go out there and look for these guys. So you kind of got to start early on, because be on the back nine in golf terms. So I'm probably the last guy to speak about golf. I'm horrible at it, but those are some terms that can make it stand out. Sure.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a thing across the board. To be honest with you, coaches, I think guys are always linemen are always at a shortage. I even tell my high school guys, and the skill guys, they might get pissed about it, but I tell them hey, you might be a player, but that guy's a lineman and they're a high price commodity. So they're going to have more opportunities to play, regardless at whatever level. I mean, I literally tell guys that, hey, if you're just an average high school player, you may get a shot to play at a small D3 because you're a lineman, dude. And it is what it is. There's not many of them, and you most of them. And if a coach is worth any shit, you understand that if we don't win up front, we ain't winning a game. So they're going to take those guys, and it's just, I think it's an entire culture because of the 7-on-7 culture, flag football culture, that linemen aren't. It's also that gritty position that doesn't get the spotlight and all that stuff, that there's just not a lot of them. And to get a really good one, right, to do it and to want to do it's rare. So if you're not, you almost got to recruit 100 to get 10. You know what I mean? It's a position that a lot of guys don't want to play. Nobody grows up saying, I'd like to be a guard, or I'd like to be, you know what I mean? Maybe more D-line has kind of made it more of a shiny position to want to play on the D-line, maybe with some of the DNs that are getting paid and whatnot. But center, who wants to be the center? You definitely don't. What do I want to be when I grow up? What position do you want to play? Not many people say center or guard. So I think that is one of the things that, Dave can attest to that, talking about guys up front, since he worked with the line with his kids team this year with youth. I mean, it's just a different type of position that, not a lot of guys want to do, right? Everybody wants to be the quarterback. Everybody wants to play that thing or catch touchdowns or run for touchdowns and do all that other kind of shit. They just don't want to play that. And, I don't blame them. That position's really hard, and there isn't a lot of limelight. So it's definitely one of those things that you kind of got to jump on. I don't think that you're an anomaly in saying that, Coach, in that that's the hardest position to get in retrospect to what the program is itself. Coach, as a former defensive back myself back in a day and 100 pounds ago, what do you look for in a defensive back? What are some of the non-negotiables when you're looking into, what I want my defensive backs to be, to have? Give me some of, give me some of the measurables maybe, so some of our guys can kind of paint the picture of what it's like to be a Kentucky Christian defensive back.
Yeah. First of all, for what you're saying about the interior, so for us, when we're looking, we want to get that guy who's a mauler. We want to find that guy who's a hard-nosed guy who wants to play, guard, tackle. I think Coach Troy, he was a offensive lineman at Delta State. He's one of our GAs. He does a great job of explaining the kind of guy he would love to coach. We all guys want measurables, but for us, we are a small school. We'll go to a guy who's 5'11", maybe probably a little undersized for the FCS, and we'll take him, and he's just a nasty kind of mauler kind of guy, and he's whistle to whistle. And for me going to the defensive back, for me, you're going to get coached hard. I think guys should automatically know that, but you're going to get loved harder. I think that's first and foremost before we even get into any measurables or any type of attributes or anything like that. I'm a big guy on motivate my guys. I kind of do it in my own way, and they will understand what I mean by that. I may play some mind games with them. It's kind of, some guys find it funny. Some guys, it can get a little hard for them when they're freshmen and they're thinking I'm picking on them, but at the same time, I just want the best for them. But I look for guys first and foremost who can play the ball. I look for guys with speed. Like I said, I'm born in Florida, so speed is like a second nature down there. Buddy. So I look for guys to be able. We basically, that's kind of, they shoot that up in you when you're born in Florida when you get first born. So, but I mean, I think as a defensive back, I love guys with good footwork. We always practicing our feet. I love guys who can be very physical at the line of scrimmage. We play a good bit of man, and so I want guys to be able to press. So anytime I'm looking at film, hey, can you put your hands on a guy? Can you really get physical with them? And that doesn't matter if you're at the high school level. Press is very hard at the high school level because it's just not taught as much as, because most people base in high school is cover 3, cover 4. So when you do find a guy who can put hands on, it's like your ears perk up. Ooh. And so, like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? And
yeah. Listen, guys don't teach it in high school, and if they do teach it, they don't teach it very well, and they just kind of more rely on that kid being an athlete and doing his thing out there rather than teaching proper press technique or hand placement or footwork. And like you said, it's part of high school football. It's a lot of zone, right? Like rarely do you see man unless it's, a certain type of cat or a certain school, right? That has those cats, right? And it's mainly, for athletes out there, just kind of being athletic, not teaching footwork, not teaching punching where the hands should be, where your eyes need to be on each play. So I could definitely see that as something that's very difficult to recruit. If a guy can, you probably have a better shot at watching them do one-on-ones at a camp playing man than you do actually seeing tape of them live in a game playing man, right? I mean, I don't think I'm crazy to think that way. But we all know it's a little different in shorts and a t-shirt. What about lengthwise, Coach? Are you looking for long safeties? Are you looking for, long corners? What are you looking for? First off, I love the fact that you brought ball skills because, it's been a thing that, where I'm at right now, year 2, I'm on the offensive side of the ball, but I work with defensive backs in the summer based off coach stuff. And just one of the things that drives me crazy is our lack of ball skills. I mean, it is just unfreaking believable how many times we have to hammer home, attack the football, highest point, all those kind of things. So, what do you, in terms of measurables, what are you looking for safety wise, corner wise, nickel wise, or, beggars can't be choosers where you're at. You got to just take whatever it is. But if you had to do measurables for your DBs, what would you look for?
No, that's funny, Coach. No, facts, man. I think we're getting into a position where we can choose a little bit. But we got inherited. I try to stay away from that, as a coach. Obviously, you it's hard because you get a guy, he's 6'1", he's 6'2", you know what I mean? I can think about one of my guys I had at Edward Waters, man. He was a coach's dream, 6'4", 6'3", but then I also think about, I go back to he wasn't the fastest, you know what I mean? So he just used his stride to keep up with most receivers versus, you may have a shorter cat, but he's win, you know what I mean? So you kind of get your double-edged sword with both, you know what I mean? So Now, if he's 6'3", running a 4.4, he won't be at my level. That's just the truth. You know what I mean? He's going to be at University of Kentucky. But I mean, for me, you know, I just try to stay away from that thought process, because at the end of the day, I just want guys who can ball. You know what I mean? I want guys who can put their head on the ball, can play football. I got right now my range is from 6'3", 6'2" to I got a 5'8" corner. You know what I mean? Who can run with the wind. You know what I mean? So it's not really a measurable thing for me. Now, obviously, each program is different. It also depends on your DC, your head coach, you know, and it also depends on the year. You know, I may have, you asked me this like this year, and I have, you know, 2 6'2" guys. I may not be looking for a true longer guy in the room right now. I do have safety, but not at corner, you know. So a lot of times you may want that longer guy in the boundary who can play on the number one receiver, who can cover those, you know, those quick game routes where they're trying to run the slants, they're trying to run the curls, the quick hitches, and they can play on that, you know what I mean? Versus you may want your shorter corner in the field. You got your speedy receivers out there. You got more space for him to work and maneuver. So you may want just short a guy who can get in and out the breaks a lot quicker to be in the have to be that way. And so, you know, for guys who can go 160, 170, 175 to, you know, the 190 range. You know, anything you get, I believe you get lower than that weight, you know, you start to get kind of thrown around in the club a little bit. You know what I mean? So
right.
You know, you get, especially if you're out there in the field, you're going to, you know, we got to be the hammer, not the nail. You know what I mean? So these are things that my little measurables that I look for, but more things that I look for in guys is how are you getting in and out your breaks? How are your hips? How are you able to play the ball in the air? How are your eyes when you're playing in the backfield at safety? Are you keeping threats? And this goes for high school, JUCO guys, and everything. So more so I look for intangibles more so than measurables. So I try to model myself on that, and that way I'm not just doing a disservice to any high school coaches or any players that I come in contact with, because I'm looking for this particular height and weight and things of that nature.
Oh, we lost Coach Shu. Yeah, no, Coach. Look, like I said, I'm in total agreement, because, you know, especially high school football players, right? Like, I think sometimes guys get so locked into measurables, right, that it gets crazy. Now, look, you might be able to do that at the Alabamas of the world and the Floridas of the world. You know what I mean? Because you're getting the cream of the crop. You're getting the 5-star caliber kid. But when you start dropping levels, right, which I think I need to preface this, even though we hammer it home here all the time. Like, if guys would just that level in terms of that and not be so crazy about, I got to be D1, I got to be D2, and just go play ball at a place that's the right fit, I think they would really start to enjoy themselves a little bit more through this process and not drive themselves crazy trying to be a D1 guy or this or whatever it is, right? Just go to a school that really wants you and is going to allow you to play. Because a lot of these guys don't understand that, like, hey, you're going to have to go and sit and learn. And most of them, they've never done that because they've always been the best player on their team. Now they're just everybody's the best player on their team, college ball, irregardless of whatever level it is, right? Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes coaches can get so wrapped up in those measurables that they miss out on a really, really good player because he's maybe, you know, a little shorter here or he's a little light in the ass here. Right, because you can teach him the football stuff he needs to know, right? But if he already has some of that and he's a football player, he's a gamer, right? That's just, to me, like, that is a trait or an attribute that I think guys overlook, and it's really hard to measure that because you can't put a clock on it, right? You can't put a tape on it. You can't measure it. It's just kind of something that you have to see, in a game situation, because there's also guys that are really good practice players. And when the lights go down, when the lights come on Friday night, they piss down their leg. It's like, buddy, like, that's really what's hard about football is it's really based off of practice, right? And you got to see it. And in high school, like, you're getting that tape, like as a college coach, like I'm sending you the best of the best, but how often do you get to see it? You only get to see it once a week. So you really got to maximize your opportunity. I think that's what makes it extremely difficult about recruiting. Dave, what do you got? Go ahead. I know you got something.
Well, what I was thinking was, a lot of it, I think in college coaching, even when you get to NAI Division II or Division III level, a lot of it has to do with, if you champion a guy and he doesn't have some of the measurables that you need and he fails, and coach, correct me if I'm wrong, if that guy fails, if he has the measurables and he fails, you could always say, hey, listen, this kid was tall, he was athletic enough, he was more, than other guys, he just didn't have it. But if you take a guy that don't have the measurables and he doesn't pan out, you look really bad as a coach. And I think that's what makes it hard, because obviously this is your livelihood, right? So that's what I think makes it hard, and that's why I think it makes a very difficult decision. Especially now, you're the recruiting coordinator, so you're more in on the decisions of who to take and who not to take. So you can have those conversations with the head coach. But a guy who's just a position coach comes and brings a player to the table, and he thinks he's a great football player, but maybe he lacks a couple of the measurables. He has to be very sure that guy's going to succeed. Otherwise, you have a couple of those guys and you're looking for a new job. And I'm sure that's part of what part of what it is. And correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, if that's a little bit of one of the things that you probably are the one that has to balance that out as a recruiting coordinator. Be like, hey, this is worth taking. This is not worth taking. And discuss that with the position coaches. But am I correct in some of that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Like for me, I think for us, we do a great job of collaborating together as a staff of saying, hey, coach, I found the guy. Are you willing to watch him? Let's say for me, like, I have no say so per se on quarterbacks. You know what I mean? That's typically our offensive coordinator and our head coach. However, what I will do is, if I know each position and coach what their preference are in guys, you know what I mean? So I know that, let's say our OC, he loves a mobile quarterback. He loves a gunslinger, loves a guy who can kind of get, mobile in the pocket. He doesn't want a pocket passer kind of quarterback. He kind of has his measurables, quote unquote, and his intangibles. So I know baseline of what he looks for in a guy. And, and what's my job is so important, because during the midst of the season, they don't have the always constantly recruiting. I'm kind of the one who's steadily every day, all day, after I get done what I need to do positionally wise, I'm the one who's kind of always like that. And you're right, with us being, at the NAI level, we do have a option to, dangle the money over the guy's face. So, it's a little different than D3, because, I've coached there as well, where it's particularly no money. You know what I mean? So you may can get away with getting a guy, but coach, you're absolutely right. If I know personally, for me, I can't speak on every coach. For me, I have brought in a guy who didn't pan out. You know what I mean? Who you thought was going to be X, Y, Z, and he turns out to be A, B, C, D. You know what I mean? And it does.
Yeah. Or fucking XYZ, and you're like, buddy, what are we doing?
Put some pressure on you.
You know what I mean? Sometimes those misses you miss.
As a coach, and it makes for sure, man. And so it does make you, it does get you that pressure, like, hey man, I gotta find the right guys, because you don't want to constantly bring in the wrong guys. So it's everything is full circle, kind of what I was saying earlier about, making sure you do your due diligence with the homework on guys. And you can do that as well, and they still turn out to be bad. You just kind of don't. You kind of just want to bring in more right guys than the wrong guys. So for sure, coach. So, but I think for us at Tech Christian, we come together as a staff. Whether that's I'm with the offensive coaches or I'm with the defensive coaches, and the head coach does a tremendous job of making sure he knows everybody we're trying to talk to. We do for us. We have our big board. We use, and everybody can see who's the sell. Everybody can see how to pay to go with the guy. That I've kind of included, and that's kind of what I do. I kind of try to always put notes with whoever I'm talking to, so the way the coach can go in there and see, like, he has some type of inkling. So, man, most def coach, but it does get challenging. You know what I mean? Because you have to do a lot of due diligence when you are the recruit coordinator. So that way the position coaches just don't have to worry about doing that particular due diligence, and they're already have a one up against the next school or on that guy. You know what I mean? So for sure, coach.
That makes a ton of sense. No, it's that's always one of the challenges, and it's sometimes hard to explain to the players on that side of it. Like when they're going through the recruiting process, you try to explain to them is like, you have to have all the things line up, so when a college coach goes to talk to the head coach or the recruiting coordinator or the staff, if all your things line up, it's your job as the athlete to make as many of those things line up as possible. Character, academics, your athleticism, obviously measurables. You can only control so much from that standpoint, but everything else, right? Your work ethic, all those, and your playmaking, right? Like making sure that you are a playmaker. Like you can't expect to get recruited if you're not a playmaker, right? And so, those are the things that have to all line up. It's the athlete's job to make sure when he gives that film to the college coach, someone like yourself, that all those things are lining up. So when that coach presents it, and you guys come back to him and say, "Hey, we think you're pretty good," you better make sure all those things are lining up, because otherwise, it's going to go nowhere, right? So, I think that's an important thing, and on the high school side, and the transfer portal side, like, hey, you need to know why you're leaving the school, right? You need to know why you're leaving and be able to communicate that to the coach that's going to possibly recruit you. Because if you're just leaving because you didn't like the way that you were talked to or something one time, like, well, football's tough. Like another coach is going to be talking to you toughly too. So it's not like that's going to change from one place to the other. So you have to know why you're leaving the school, and what you actually bring to the table. Yes, your skill sets obviously is very important athletically, but you got, if you're coming from another culture, like culture meaning team culture, and you're coming to a new team like Kentucky Christian. I think it's important for players to understand that, like, you got to assimilate into that new culture, not the other way around. It's not the coach's
Right.
job to try to assimilate to you. It's your job to try to assimilate to the team culture, and I think that that's real important. I think that that's where you see it at the highest level, right? At Division 1, how many times does a team now? It used to never be that way. A really good program one year, next year they're winning 3 games, like, because when they brought in some transfers that didn't work and didn't assimilate into their culture, and next thing you know, those are the quickest guys to jump off the shift because they already jumped off one shift before. It's like, if you meet a woman and she's been divorced 2 times already or 3 times, you can bet your bottom dollar there's a good chance you're going to be getting divorced. So down the road,
Facts.
because that's just a
Facts.
creature of habit, that's a creature of habit. So, but yeah,
Facts.
I think that's
Yes, sir. Yes,
important.
sir.
That's really important. But no, I love how you handle it. I
And
think you got a great way of doing things, and I really wish you the best going forward. It's really cool. I see your guys' stuff all the time, all over social media, and the players posting, and the recruits posted. So you guys are doing a great job. Derek?
Do we lose him?
Really?
You're definitely right, though. Look, I mean, for a program like that, like I see there's just a ton of them on, there's a ton of stuff
you
on
got me,
social
coach?
media in terms of what they're
Oh, there you
doing.
go.
Yeah, coach. Yeah, go. There you go. Here we go in and out. You there, Dave?
I am here. Yes. There.
Oh, okay. Did we lose him?
Sure.
I'm
You there,
I'm
coach?
still here. I got you guys.
Oh, okay. All right.
kind
All right.
of
All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but,
yeah. No,
man,
no,
coach,
you're good.
No, coach, I appreciate that, man. What we try to do, we try to, like I said, we try to make it where we can truly show ourselves. It's so hard for guys to, with having such a national reach, it's hard for guys to come on campus a lot of times. So, right now, the furthest guy we have on our team is from California. He's a receiver, and we have we have a couple Texas guys. So one of our starting freshmen right now is Jatarius Randolph. I'll shout him out. He's from down there, Texas. We got some more guys. Michael Pearson, a running back. He's from Texas. You know what I mean? So we got some Georgia guys. You know what I mean? We got our, like I told Coach, you've spoken before. We got our Florida guys. So we with guys seeing what we're building, on social media, like you all are seeing, it just creates that reach more, and it makes it feel like, what one thing social media did for the world, it made the world smaller versus everything seeming so far away and so far outreach. That's what the internet has done. And so with social media, with the branding, and guys are able to, DM. Now I may not get to everybody, you know what I mean? Because it's so many DMs a lot of times. And, I can get overwhelmed at times, to surprising to what, contrary to what people may think, it does become a lot. And I try to get to everybody. I try to respond. I try to watch film. And you said something earlier, Coach, with trying to teach the younger guys about what, the college coaches are looking for. If I can add on to that, like, put your best clips in your first 15 and 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Because you have to understand, college coaches has film that's, I may watch 100 different guys, in a sitting, you know what I mean, in a couple of days. And so I'm not watching 3 minutes worth of film. If I like you and we want you, then we may progress to the minute and a half, the 2 minutes. But if I can be completely honest, you have to show your best first action within the first 5 clips. You know what I mean? Interception. You're breaking tackles and you're scoring. You know what I mean? You're throwing a 50, 60 yard, ball. You know what I mean? You're offensive lineman, defensive lineman. You're mauling people, at the line of scrimmage. You're getting great point of contact. You know what I mean? You're knocking hats back. So because, like you said, we don't have the time. And so if I can give any advice to, any coaches on a high school level, any players, like, just put the best foot forward when you're creating these highlight clips. Because I've seen where I have watched a minute clip in on minute and 30, you got your best play on there, and it's like, man, why wasn't this play first? I would have been, it's just so happened I just happened to see it. So those are the things that guys have to understand. Like, just put your best foot forward, and coaches just continue doing a great job of preaching what you already know about the college level for your guys. And so, that's the advice I can definitely give for that.
No doubt. Very well said, Coach. It's been great having you on. Really, really appreciate you taking the time to come on today. And I definitely learned a lot about the Kentucky Christian program and where you guys are going. So it's been great having you on, Coach.
Man, thanks, Coach. It's been great, man. I really appreciate it, and I'm very humble. Thanks you so much, guys.
Thanks, buddy. Good luck, man. Good luck the rest of the way. We'll talk soon.
Have a great day, Coach.
Thank you so much.
Take care, Coach.
Right. Bye-bye.
All right, man. Now you can go navigate the disconnect world, the no power world.
Well, yeah, I mean, this at least I had 5 bars because I was able to hear you clearly. I think some of his stuff was buffering or whatever.
Yeah. No, he said that in the beginning. He was like, "Look, I really apologize. Like, we ain't got the best Wi-Fi where we're at." He's like, "But I'll, obviously." He's like, "I'll do my best." Look, it's shit, man. I mean,
a couple times I wasn't sure because I went in and out because I thought.
Yeah, you were going in and out too, and then he was going in and out too. I was like, all right, well, we're all right, but we made it work.
It's amazing. You're only 30 minutes away, and you don't have anything. So
no, we have nothing. That's the difference. It's that crazy weather.
That is it's craziness. I was literally sitting there. And it was like 9:50, and all of a sudden, I'm like, everything started blinking, and I'm like, wait a minute. And then I was just finished. I just finished texting you, like, yeah, I had it already. I gave you the link or whatever from a few days ago, and all of a sudden, it just went out. I'm like, did everything just go out?
All good, buddy.
Then I went downstairs and I was going to try and do it downstairs. And I still have 2 bars where I live, so I should have been able to do it. But I went downstairs, it's pitch black.
You're like, don't know if this is working.
So then I went to the park here where I walk, usually has like 4 bars. I go over there and it was like no bars. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So I was like, let me just go to Corporate Park next to Lifetime Fitness. That place has.
That's always point. That place.
Yeah, I mean, I bet you if I would go into Lifetime Fitness, they actually have a like all the people work. Yeah, like I may have to go do my work in there the rest of the day. They have a lounge for like corporate people.
That's amazing. Well, because I mean, look, like how many people? Shit, dude, you go into Starbucks, how many people are sitting there, right? It's why these internet bars people are so key because so many people work from home, dude. Nobody goes to a freaking office anymore.
Well, the area where they have it in Lifetime Fitness is the second floor, and they have the huge pickleball area, and then they have all the studios, and then they have this big. Like these big long tables, kind of like you would at Starbucks, right? And you could just plug in and boom, go. And I never have used it, but I see people in there. I'm like, well, today I might have to go over there and just work.
You're like, well, if you're like, hey, I'm paying this much for a membership anyway.
Yeah, oh yeah, you're allowed to. Obviously, it's part of the membership there, so which is pretty cool. The but it's I'm supposed to do another podcast. I can't do a podcast in there because there's a million people.
Hell no.
But yeah. So that was good. I do see Kentucky Christian all over social media all the time. I don't know if you do or not, but I do see a lot of.
I mean, it's how I got it. You know what I'm saying? Plus, I always like to mix it up with guys from different levels, or you know what I mean? Like that stuff I think adds a level of like, because we don't have NAIAs over here. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like guys just don't know what that world is. They hear NAIA and they think it's like the 4th level below E3. And it's just
right, and it's equal
right.
with Division II, I think, or similar
Correct.
to
It's
Division
more
II.
it's more on par with Division II than it is Division III.
Correct.
Right. I mean, obviously,
Well, they're high
there's some
end. They're
like
high
Division.
end. Like
Listen,
when you watch the NAIA National Championship, um, the the two teams that are in it are usually very, very good. Very,
Dave,
very.
Manny Matsakis had an NAIA school in Kansas. He was at Bethany College or
Oh yeah.
NAIA. We sent 3 or 4 players from West Orange when we were there out to him to go and play, dude. And it was high level ball. You know what I'm saying? And that was my first kind of introduction into NAIA, right? Is because he just found a program. They were willing to go, and it was like, all right. And it was so that it's just another option, man. And it's the same. It's college football. Right, it's college football. There's high level players there, and they can, go in and out and whatnot, and all that kind of stuff with transfers and what. Interesting to hear his perspective on how they handle, like obviously like 70% transfers, right? But then how they acclimate to it or how they put those guys into the program, because like you said, you referenced it, man. You take one bad apple in a locker room. Is that transfer really worth it? No, he's just ruined your whole whatever for however many years it sets you back. So it's got to be the right pick when it comes to it.
No, there's no doubt. No doubt about it. All right. Well, at least you have dry weather, and
I don't know. It might be raining. It was raining before, but it wasn't like windy or anything. But who the hell knows, dude?
I think I tore my rotator cuff on my left arm.
That's horrific.
So I fell in practice, like running scout, like the kids mauled me, and I like tripped, and like I landed on it, but I didn't think anything of the time at the time. It really didn't hurt that bad. And then but
That's one of those that's one of those that comes out later.
It's been 2 months, and I still can't really lift my hand above my shoulder on my left arm. So I'm like, oh man, I must have like tore something or something.
MRI time.
I'm like, oh man, I'm just working my way through every single joint, my right knee, my right hip, and now my left shoulder. It's unbelievable.
My pops did that. He had that surgery, bro. That was brutal.
It was.
I watched him, and I've watched him go through like, Liz Frank on his foot too. You know what I mean? But his rotator cuff was bad. I mean, I remember he got something too after he had the surgery. It was called like frozen shoulder, where through the rehab, like the tendons just like literally wouldn't go anymore. So he had to his rehab through that thing was fucking brutal because he had obviously a complication in the recovery process. But I mean, I just remember him struggling with that for a hot minute.
Yeah, well, the thing about the shoulder that's annoying is that when you sleep, I like to sleep on my left shoulder, on my side. That's what I sleep on. I can't do it. So, like, if I do it, I wake up, my shoulder's just, I can't even move it. I think I have like I might have like a frozen shoulder. I don't really know what that is, but I can't really get it above my head. Without
look, I did something to mine too. I didn't throw a ball overhand the entire season. Like I did something too. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's probably on par with whatever, but it's miserable. Like I get it. God, we're just so old, dude. It sucks every time. It's just like something else. Like, what are we doing?
I really like. I someone needs to invent one of these clinics that you can go in, take care of your knee, your hip, your shoulder. Like an assembly line, like they roll you through there. So the doctor does the fixes the thing on the knee. Boom.
Just keep
here
going.
He comes.
Keep going.
Here he comes.
All right, next.
Take care of the hip.
Put me on the conveyor belt, bro. Put me on the conveyor belt.
Because who wants to go back through? Like now, I'm like, I got to go back 3 times for these things. Like I just end up doing nothing. Really, that's the truth of what happens. I end up doing nothing.
Because it also the whole going through the process of an appointment, and then all right, like now I gotta go get an MRI. Now you got to do all of these things just to get to like, all right, I know I need surgery, right? Or hey, well we wanted you to do some PT first, then we want to shoot it up, and then you go through this whole long process to ultimately get to where you know you have to go. Like, dude, just tell me I need surgery right now and let's get this thing done.
Yeah. Yeah, at least the knee guy basically said, listen, you could get a partial. I went to New York City, this guy, and he said you could get a partial or, but the truth is you're going to need a full. And,
Knee
you can
replacement, you're
do
talking?
it. What's that?
Replacement?
Yeah, yeah. He said, you can do what you want. You can delay it longer and longer. But if you decide you want to do it, like that'll probably be your best approach because you'll get it done. You'll have a new knee. But for me, it's just like once I get a new knee, there's no going back. So not that there's a go.
Yeah,
Not
but I
that
mean,
there's.
look, I've heard some guys that like have done that, and dude, it's like I've been able to do things that I haven't been able to do since I left high school. Like I just, especially with the way technology has evolved, like the
Yes.
whole process, even the process of like what you had to go through over and over and over, like back in the heyday, it's not even close to, like guys almost now would rather opt for it sooner than later. Right. Because for me, it was always you're too young. We're not doing it right. Like, we're not going to do that. Like, you still, you're too young. Like, buddy, just give me the fucking knee replacement so I can like feel like a human again. And you know what I mean? Like, come on. But
Right. Does
sure
the guy from Miami, is he able to run? The guy that the
dude,
strength
he's able to box. He's able to do box jumps. I mean, that's the guy. He was literally like Derek. Like, I'm doing things that I couldn't do when I had my old knee. Like, you know what I'm saying? Almost
right.
like an upgrade. Like, which is only part of that's what it'll be soon. Is when freaking AI takes over, and all of a sudden everything will be freaking.
It'll be actually you'll be like remember the Bionic Man, that show?
Yeah, dude. I'll be a freaking robot. Whatever works, dude. I don't really care. I would just love to be able to like sprint again. Like, I would love to fucking run.
I would love to run.
Dude, I would love to do that again, bro. And I just know that like that would just like all of that and that level of physical activity, like to be able to do just a little bit of that, or even like, us playing pickleball and that shit. Like, I'd love to be able to do that without feeling like misery after I was done. You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit, it's just unbelievable. It's crazy, but I would love to be able to do that again and have that sense of like, oh yeah,
that's why I had to stop.
You are still an athlete.
That's why I stopped. I was in so much pain playing.
Yeah, every time you do it, and you're it's not like we're moving it like a whole shit ton in compared to other things. Like, dude, I'd love to be able to go like play hoops again or something. You know what I'm saying, dude? Like, come on, man. Shit, I would love it. It's just the process.
You guys play Friday or are you supposed to play tonight?
No, we played last night. We won.
Oh, you play? You're done.
Thank God, bro. We won 19-7.
Oh, that was Pinelands?
Yeah, we went down to Pinelands, and it was miserable, right? Like, windy, raining on and off, drizzle like pretty much the whole game. It was a slop fest. It was a college game, put it that way.
Well, you're probably glad. Well, at least you get out with a couple of wins in a row, so you feel good.
Listen, I told guys last night, like 5-5 is a lot better than 4-6, right?
Yep.
And like just the whole like going into an off season, like winning 2 games, like that's that adds a little different level to it. And it was good, like Jermaine went out on a really high note. Like, he probably played the best game I've ever seen him play, in all phases, right? He had like a big, nice one-handed catch across the middle on a dig. Like, it just pinned it to his chest and he caught it, held on for like a big first down. And then, so we were up 19-7. No, I'm wrong. We were up 12-7. 12-7, I think it was. And we give him the ball back with like 49 seconds to go. And he pick sixes one to the house, which, fall down, but he had the edge, and I'm like, I hope he just runs this thing in. So he ended his career on a really high note. So I was really happy for him because he deserved it.
Great.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was just, Dave, it's so funny because like he comes to the sideline, he's like, Coach, I have no idea how I caught that ball. Because he literally caught, like, it was a dig across the middle, and he literally like just here and just pinned it to his chest, right, for the first down. And he's like, Coach, I have no idea how I caught it. And I'm like, well, it's because you're good, buddy. And he was like, oh, okay. Like, it was like he didn't know that. I'm like, shit. Like, yeah, like you're good. Like, but it was a slot fest, man. Ugly game. I mean, we did almost everything you could possibly think of to lose. I think we had like 4th and inches. Bro, we had like 4th and inches probably 4 times and couldn't get a first down. And obviously, like, there's like the other team, their head coach was very open this week about,
I saw that
they were 3, so a lot of media coverage and like whatever. So it was good to kind of just be like, hey, you're also playing us this week, right? Like, we know you think you should be in the playoffs, but like, all right, prove it. And they didn't prove it. So,
well, yeah, I mean, listen, the power ratings it really has a lot to do with who you play, right? And the shore is a lot of trickeration. It's a lot of trickeration because of the teams that play in the highest level leagues play tougher teams, so you could be pretty good, but your record not be that great. And then the team could have a great record and not really be very good.
I think the biggest gripe, like why he has been so vocal about it, was because the team that got in front of him was like 2-6.
Yeah, I saw that. Timber Creek. Yep.
So, but I mean, look, I get it, but it happens all the time.
That happens a lot with Timber Creek. They play in the highest division in the West Jersey.
Schools used to get pissed at us too because we would be 4-4 and get in the playoffs, and teams would be like 7-1 and not get in. But we play all group 3s, group 4s, like, you know what I mean, as a group 1. So it 100% has to do with, and you can only schedule so many games out of division, right, because of the way it is. But
it happens to Rumson
all the time, dude. It's just the way the show
does. And then they go and win group 2.
Rock and roll. Like,
they'll be 5-5, 6-4. 6-4, and then go win group 2.
Yep.
So yeah, the level of competition is a big deal. Like there is instances where a team could have a great run, but most of the time you could tell by who they play against what level they're at.
I also always thought that by playing that higher level of competition, whether you won, I mean, look, you got to win enough to get in, but that just like added a level of like, when we got to the playoffs, it was like, this is easy, like we got, we were rocking and rolling all year. So for that, it was just kind of like, because you were playing those tougher teams, bigger schools. Now you get to, your group 1 playoffs, and it was like, damn, this is, what are you talking about here?
Yeah, it's exactly.
I don't think it's a perfect system. I don't think it'll ever be a perfect system. But I mean, you do what you can with it. You got to win the games on your schedule, and that's it. That's all you can really ask for. What else are you gonna do?
Now that so this week coming up is the first week of playoffs, right? So
this is the first week of public school playoffs. Yes.
Public school. Okay. That's interesting.
Now, parochial is still regular season. Like Donovan plays St. Joe's Metuchen. And then Sunday, the parochial guys will, like, I don't know, that it doesn't even come down to points with them. They just all look at her room, and there's a committee that picks what it is. Parochial A only has 8 teams. Everybody else is in parochial B. And then they just kind of look at the numbers, whose guys have, and then they just roll it out there and go. So totally different way than that. for the
Cool.
parochial. Yeah, it's just a seating meeting.
Interesting.
Yeah,
All right. Well,
so,
I'll let you. I'll let
Go
you
get
walk.
him, buddy.
I'll give you a shout. I gotta ask you something. So.
go ahead, buddy.
All right, man. Great job. That was a good guest. I wish you could hear him more clearly, but it was a great guest.
We'll get him again.
All right, cool.